Welcome to Becoming Muse. I'm your host, Ashlan Christoph, and I would love to welcome our guest, Rebecca Gordon, renowned astrologer. She's going to help bring some light onto what's going on astrologically for October 2023. Welcome, Rebecca.
Hey, Ashlyn, it's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me on your podcast.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for taking the leap of faith and joining me.
It's an honor, and especially at such a vital time in the year, eclipse season. I think there's never been a better time to talk about astrology.
Yes, let's dive into, what these eclipses really are all about. And can you just give those of us who maybe don't have a deep understanding of the astrology, what is an eclipse and what does it mean for the collective?
That's a great question. Eclipses are probably my favorite topic in astrology because they really deal with the evolution of humanity. They deal with the evolution of your soul. And essentially, what eclipses do on the material plane, we could say they expedite evolution. They compress about 20 years into 1 month or 2 months. So all of the events that would have happened in a very long period of time get collapsed into a very short period of time, which we call eclipse season. And eclipse season is what we are entering right now. So as probably this podcast is going live around the beginning of October, that is the beginning of eclipse season. Now, what happens? What is an eclipse? I think it's a great question because, it's a pretty stunning, stark event you look at in the sky. Basically, we'll go into a solar eclipse first because
Okay.
a solar eclipse is like a new moon times 10. So, Ashlyn, you know what a new moon is all about, right? You know the power of new moons.
Yes, intense new energy coming in where you just, it feels, a refreshing time to me. That's how I feel.
Great. So let's multiply that times 30.
Okay.
Okay, new moon times 30 equals solar eclipse. All right.
Okay.
So the power of a new moon, we have like 30 new moons all rolled into one. That's a solar, because a solar eclipse is a new moon,
Right.
but it's a new moon that is extra turbocharged. And that's because only twice a year, the sun, the moon, and the earth are in this direct line of energy. Every other of the 10 months, it's a regular old new moon.
Right.
2 times out of the year, we get a solar eclipse. And when that eclipse happens, energetically, what's going on is we have to imagine that the moon blocks the light of the sun. So first we're going to ask the question, what is the sun? And what is the sun within us? The sun is a star. The star emits light. Light
Mhm.
encodes information. So the sun is like this big, powerful information source that is just spreading information transmitted through light to our solar system, right? That is just like it's like a radio broadcast signal. You got
Yeah.
that?
Yes, got it.
Okay, so imagine we're all kind of like moving to the beach, dancing to the rhythms of the sun. We're going about our little jobbies, our relationships, our lives, our playtime, our things, all the
Like
things we do,
normal. Yeah.
right? Everything's normal, and we're dancing to the beat of our sun because our sun is the light encoded information radio signal to us.
Mm-hmm.
Now, an eclipse happens, and the moon blocks the light of the sun completely. So the radio station gets turned off. Imagine that. You can no longer find that channel. I'm talking old school for you, like
Yeah.
yeah, folks, you can no longer
Right.
find that channel on the radio. It's not there anymore. So the moon blocks the light of the sun. And this is an interesting point. This is what happens during an eclipse. And the sun recalibrates itself.
Mm.
So what the moon is doing, as it spins around the earth as a satellite, it's collecting information like a hard drive. It stores memory, past, soul, information, emotions that it's been gathering. And now the moon and the sun are in the 7-minute dialogue called a solar eclipse. It can be 7 minutes, it could be 5 minutes, it could be 20 minutes, it's not that long. It can be a
Yeah.
few. And when they're in that dialogue, the moon is transferring its signals that it's received from planet Earth to the sun. And the sun's like, oh, really? Well, I'm changing the station and we're not going back there anymore. And then the moon passes the sun. And from then on after, the sun emits an entirely new frequency and quality of light. And you can never go back to the same way that things were before after a solar eclipse. That is why so many people decide to leave their jobs, leave their relationships, change their lives, and really live courageously and do things that otherwise done. For example, it's not even a choice sometimes. Sometimes if you just try to go back to that old thing, and this will be something different for each of you that are listening based on the way your chart is set up, but like if you try to go back to that thing, you can't. Because there's something that blocks you. It's like the codes have changed and you can't even go back there anymore. The magic is not there. The thing, it's not happening. It's not available. The frequency has changed because the sun is emitting a new frequency that is sort of optimized to where our souls want to evolve. Eclipses are here to expedite evolution. Let's be clear. This is basically the universe's way of making corrections.
So interesting. Oh my gosh. I have so many thoughts running through my head, and that makes so much sense because everybody I know is going through some type of huge change of letting go of something that's been a long-standing thing. A lot of moves. A lot of people are moving or having to move because they are, like, my house is being put on the market and I'm renting the house. So guess what? I have to get out. And I have another friend going through that, another friend going through the loss of a pet, all sorts of things. So then it just makes so much sense that it's how the energy is actually feeling. So does this occur on the new moon, the solar eclipse?
A new moon is a solar eclipse.
Okay, so it's the same date as our new moon in October? Is that when the eclipse?
Solar eclipse is like 30 new moons rolled into one. It is a new moon. The only difference between a new moon and a solar eclipse is that there is a direct line of sun, moon, and earth. And when there's a regular old new moon, they're just not in direct alignment. That's why you see that little sliver. But when they're in direct alignment, the moon blocks the total light of the sun. So a solar eclipse is a new moon. It's called a new moon solar eclipse.
Got it.
Right?
Yes.
A lunar eclipse is a full moon. It's just called a full moon lunar eclipse. And it's like 30 full moons rolled into one. That's the lunar eclipse. So like these are just very exaggerated versions of lunations. Like, and I think people get really confused about that. Sometimes they think a solar eclipse is something totally different or whatever. No, it's just a new moon, but a very powerful one.
Yes.
So yeah, that's a good differentiation to make here. I mean, I know that you're a Libra. The solar eclipse is in Libra, and I think that all of our Libras listening are definitely in for a wild ride over the next 2 years because eclipses tend to stay in one family for about 2 years. So they have just entered the Libra Aries family. So our Taurus and Scorpios can take a rest. You guys have been through a lot over the last 2 years. Our Taurus, Scorpios, Leos, and Aquariuses have had a lot of curveballs. They've had the rug pulled out from under them, and their evolution has been expedited. Taurus, Scorpio, Leos, and Aquariuses have had the biggest changes and risings of Taurus, Scorpios, Leo, and Aquariuses because the eclipses have been in the axis of Taurus, Scorpio. Now they're in the axis of Libra, Aries.
Okay.
So
will it keep occurring like that for the next 2 years? It'll be in cardinal signs?
just Libra, Aries for about 2 years, yeah. But it affects the ones that it squares to. It affects everybody differently, and perhaps we'll go into that. I think that it's going to be interesting though to really explore what this eclipse is about for the collective, because it has sort of a larger context to it culturally. And the eclipse sends a message. Every 18 years, there's the same eclipse. So you can think back to what happened in 2005. That was the last time you would have experienced this eclipse. Ashlan, what happened in your life in 2005? Do you remember that?
I know it's so long ago, right? I mean, I do remember there was the war stuff was kind of going on, the Iraq war. My son at the time was 4. So yeah, it was a very big time for me because we had a big move from my family home, from living with my family at that time to my own little apartment place shortly thereafter. So yes, it was a very big change.
That makes a lot of sense because you are a Libra, and this was the last time you had an eclipse in your own sign to this degree. So this year is going to echo what happened with you in 2005. So for example, you moved out of your family home, you got your own home.
Yes.
Now that theme might be echoed up. Perhaps you're moving again and you're moving into a new home, maybe with a partner as well, it seems like, by the looks of this eclipse, and your 5th house as well. So, or falling in love and moving into a new home. Like all these things are very probable but it's going to echo for everybody what happened 18 years. There's this thing called a Saros cycle, and you can all look this up on NASA, and every 18 years there's a similar eclipse, all part of the same family. And like an accordion, they string your life together every 18 years. You're going to see echoes of that. So focus on what happened then and think about, hey, you've got more wisdom under your belt now, everybody listening. So how can we do it better this time around too? We've learned a lot since then.
So much. I mean, I hope we have, right? So because it affects everyone's solar chart differently, can we look at how it's going to affect each sign?
Yeah.
Through just because I feel like people will really want to know, because I know it's such a big.
We can absolutely do that. I love that idea. Let's dive into all the signs. And also just want to mention for everybody, the solar eclipse happens, but hey, we got to take out the trash too. So there's a lunar eclipse 2 weeks after, and it's like you just can't keep filling your cup. A lunar eclipse means there must be a sacrifice. It means you have to release something to create room for this new reality to actually establish its roots. All right.
Can you tell me what degree, or can you tell us what degree the lunar eclipse will be at?
Yeah, let's go into the degree of the solar and the lunar. So the solar is at 21 degree Libra.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And the lunar that follows that is going to be at 5 degrees of Taurus. So for anybody listening with planets near 21 Libra or 21 really of any sign, especially cardinal sign, that solar is really affecting you. And for anybody with planets at 5 degrees Taurus or any fixed sign for that matter, the lunar is really going to affect you. Now, the lunar is also interesting. It's just basically saying that, hey, we're going to also have to all take out the trash and release something big that we once thought gave us security and that we really needed around October 28th. That is a full letting go. So let's just all mark that date on our calendars, October 28th. This is a time of, it's almost like a joyous release. It's conjunct Jupiter.
Okay.
There can be anger expressed, there can be joy. There's a sense of kind of really stepping into like creating space. But I'd love to go through what the solar means, because the solar eclipse does not just affect October. It impacts the whole year ahead and perhaps the next 7 years or more. And that is because as many minutes as the eclipse is lasting correlate to the years in which it impacts. So,
so is it lasting 7 minutes?
I haven't checked. I've actually threw that number out, but we should check on this one. Now, some people say that's lore. Some people say it's true. I've actually found it to be quite true. So there's that. But I will say the solar is at least a year. The that shake up now will reverberate through your life, usually for many years to come. So it'll be interesting now to dive into what the solar means for all of the zodiac signs, all of the members of the zodiac.
Yes.
It's yeah, it's got a big story to tell. And we can begin with the sign of Aries if you'd like. Do you want
Yeah, I love that.
to or somewhere else? It's up to you.
It's always the great starting point. So yes, the first one.
Fantastic. So because it's in Libra, culturally and globally, this is about, for everyone, a new way of doing partnership. Global message, Earth message, solar eclipse in Libra. We have to start thinking about relationships in new ways. Okay. And I think our culture is really focused on romantic relationships a lot. You know, and not platonic ones as much, and friendship. So I think that there's this need to kind of value other kinds of relationships as much as well. It's also going to bring up a lot of old patterning that we've perhaps had woven through our lineages in terms of relationships. And it's creating a fresh start, a need for a stark new beginning for you to repattern how you're going to do relationships moving forward. But that is the case for every member of the zodiac because it's a solar eclipse in Libra conjunct the south node of the moon.
Right. That's right. The south node is there with it. So does that, I mean, just on a side note, would that make it a little more potent or different?
No, it doesn't. I wouldn't say it makes it more or less potent because it's either conjunct the north node or the south node, but it really insinuates the fact that we do have to look at our previous conditioning, karmic patterning, ancestral patterning in terms of relationships, because that is all coming up for review. The south node kind of brings up all the sediment of the bottom of the ocean, what's been woven through your ancestral story.
Okay, that
you
makes
can
sense.
see it, you know, it's going to all rise to the surface, and then you can cleanse through and choose what you want to take forward.
Right. Okay.
But for everybody, this is about a new beginning. For our Aries, it is especially about partnership. I know Aries are kind of the sign of, I'm going to do it myself. And Aries are entering a year where the doors of relationship are wide open. And I would challenge our Aries listening, Aries and Aries rising, always listen for your rising sign, no matter what sign. This is very much about a new way of committing. And if you have a trusted relationship, this is your time for a new business partner. Perhaps you and your partner become closer, or you become open to a new kind of commitment in your life. It's beautiful, actually. That said, if you're in a partnership that is not in alignment with who you are, it will likely get eclipsed out of your life very quickly. That's what eclipses do. They expedite evolution. Anything that is not in alignment is out the door, so the new can come in. That's why solar eclipses sometimes create endings as well.
Right. Okay. And that's because it would be happening in the Aries the seventh house, or would it just?
Yeah. That's right. But it might create sometimes a solar, it has to create an ending for a new beginning to happen. Now, for our Taurians out there, the Taurians are dealing with a sixth house eclipse. And this is a really good year for Tauruses overall. You have Jupiter in your sign, juicy Jupiter. You have Jupiter, Uranus trining Pluto. You have a lot of earth sign power here. Taurus, you are in a great place, and the universe is asking you to focus more on the fabric of the day, how you move through your day, being more conscious of your day, and specifically how you treat your body, your mental relationship to your body, your mind-body connection, to be healthier. So getting into better mental health, getting into better physical health, it's really important, Taurus, that you create healthier habits. And if you've had a challenge, if you've had an addiction or any kind of health challenge, or anything that was kind of like, like this big question mark, what's going on with my body? I can't figure this out.
Right.
Like you're getting the answers on that. And this is a year to
Mm.
really get into the best health ever. And if you're not doing that, the universe is going to create a correction and force you to.
That's good to know. That's a red flag one.
That's for our Taurians out there.
Mhm.
Health, health, health. Yes.
And then what do we Gemini?
Geminis, yes. For our Geminis are opening up to really expressing themselves, expressing their true self, their true creativity and love. I really like this for Geminis because, well, I think that Geminis, well, they like to write, they like to create and connect to people a lot. And this lunation really opens up the creative powers in harmony also with Saturn at the top of your chart. So you're getting serious about career, you're opening up your creativity, you're also opening your heart to love. I see you being free. I see you actually, going forward with the thing that everybody thought was not practical, but you always knew you could do it, and you're going to do it this year. Like this is your true creativity expressing and allowing yourself to also rise into love. Like your true love, allowing your heart to open, your creativity to express. I love this for you, Gemini.
It's like you're talking about. Yeah, that's what they love. That's the Gemini. That's what they all are seeking, at least the ones in my life. So I'm hearing that.
That said, it's also going to eclipse out any love relationships that are not in alignment, Gemini. Any endeavors that are not. It does that just as well. Again, this eclipse makes corrections fast.
Mm-hmm. That's
all
good.
right.
No.
Yeah. Let's continue. Now, our cardinal signs Cancer are also getting heavily affected because, well, all the cardinals are. It squares Libra, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and you can think of a Cancer as you're listening to this. Essentially, it activates the base of your chart. So it's home and family. And here it speaks about the potential for you to move, the potential that you might need to move for a specific reason. There's something that in your home and your family of origin that wants your attention right now. You need to kind of draw your attention to the base of your chart, which is your home, your family, and course correct there. Maybe you need to course correct your relationship to your home and family. That could be happening for you, Cancer. But it is important that you go backwards in order to go forwards. It is important that you do some cleanup work here too, because if you have cut off certain people out of your life, this is the time to build bridges, and you're going to access a deeper level of yourself. It's like we're taking the plant out of the pot and putting it into the deep soil where you can establish deeper roots and then grow taller.
Yes, that makes so much sense. Yes. So that would be mostly home and ancestral roots with family lineage, right? As well. Or
stories with how you get on with your family too. If you've like cut people out of your life, like a parent or a sibling or a grandparent, if you've this has to do with also perhaps course correcting, building bridges. It also might be that you need to cut somebody out of your life, who's really toxic. But overall, it is course correcting in terms of family of origin, lineage stories. There might be a move also in this.
Okay.
Clearing the way. Eclipses clear the way.
I'm here for it.
Right, me too. We are ready. Hello.
Ready. We're definitely ready. Okay, so then we're on to our lovely Leos.
That's correct. Okay, our Leos are here. So for Leos, interestingly, this is in your house of communications. So the world is asking you to share your voice in a new way. And this can be through a podcast, it can be through writing a book, it can be through creating a forum, a website or something where you're wanting to speak or write or communicate, connect to the world in a new way. All right, so that means that as you do that, you'll also need to be eclipsing out old ways of connecting and communicating too. because this is creating a new pattern of communication for Leo.
Would it be a good time for new communication or new connections?
Yeah, it feels like that's naturally going to happen. Opportunities like a book proposal, a new podcast, a new kind of collaboration, for sure. That's
Okay.
what it's about. Yes. And again, that's Leo and Leo rising, both.
Perfect. Yes. Rising.
Yes.
I love a good Leo. I really do. I don't know why. I just think they're the most most sunshine, fun, crazy, dramatic, but yeah, I love a good Leo.
Well, Leo's ruled by the sun, the center of the solar system. So naturally so, they do like to be the center of things, and they need to shine brightly. And when they do, and that when that light is received, they can be incredibly generous, like the rays of the sun. But if they are not received, and if their ego is damaged, right, then the sun gets a bit eclipsed. So it's like Leos are like, respect the sun, right? There's this honoring of the sun. So
on to Virgo.
Yeah. So Virgo is sort of a reaction to Leo, but every sign sort of reacts to the one previously. Now we look at Virgo and we see this eclipses activating your house of income. Just want to give a note to all our listeners too, that like, if you hear me saying one sign for your sun and one for your rising, you need to sort of throw them both into the pot and turn the heat up, mix them together to get the full story. Okay.
Okay.
So
that's a good note. Yeah, that's a good note.
Yeah, because you're going to listen for both, and each one will tell half the story. The Virgo story here has to do with a new revenue source for you, something new that you're doing, like for your work, some skill that you're cultivating and taking to shop, building a more prolific career out of this skill. So it's like you're honing your craft, you're honing your skill, you're perhaps raising your rates, or you're creating a new product, you're bringing it to market. It feels rather industrious. At the same time, it will eclipse out old things that are not in alignment any longer for you.
That I know many Virgos that are excited to hear that news. So thank you.
Great.
And then on to the Libras.
That's you, right?
That's me. What? Yeah. I didn't get your sign either, so I should have asked that.
I'm a Virgo.
Oh, there you go. Perfect. It's your time.
And no, well, I mean, the eclipse is in your sign, so you are holding the power of the eclipse. So you are getting the absolute rebirth. When the eclipse is in your sign, our Libras are getting reborn, essentially. And I want every sign to think back to 2005. Now, for our Libras here, this is big. And also, I would say to a degree, 2004 as well. So for our Libras here, this is a pure rebirth of self. You get to reinvent yourself this year, completely start over. It feels like an absolute fresh start for you. Now, wherever this exists in your chart, what house is it, Libra is in, it's going to tell the story too. And especially where 20 degrees is at as well. So this is a complete renewal of self. And when you do that, it changes everything around you. It changes your relationships, it changes your work, it changes all the things. It's allowing a layer of yourself to fall away, so a new, more vibrant version rises up.
I love it. So it would depend on what house it's happening in as well. So okay. So that's where you're mixing the rising. Got it.
Okay. You got it. Yep.
Makes sense.
Those of you that know your chart can look for what house it's in too. If you know 20 degrees Libra, you can find that.
Yes. Yeah.
So you want to listen to that plus what I'm saying here, your sun sign. So Scorpio time. Scorpios, you have Mars in Scorpio now. Oh, and I do want to just mention before it gets too much later that I just realized that if it's okay, if I mention this right now, because Scorpio reminded me of this. Scorpio season and Mars in Scorpio is a wonderful thing. We have Mars in dignity right now. Mars is in Scorpio. And at the same time, I always think of like going really deep into matters of study when I see Mars in Scorpio. And that made me think of something because I've been very much preparing all of this material for our astrology school this year. I teach an intensive beginners class, which is complete comprehensive 14-week course that begins on October the 9th. So I just want to mention that here because it is so much about back to school season, Mars and Scorpio, going deep into our astrology studies. I teach astrology for anybody that wants to learn. We do this class once a year. I don't know if I'll be doing it live in the future. So I just want to mention that is coming up on October 9th. And you will have, I believe you're going to have links and things like that too.
Yes.
But that is available. And I just love being a Virgo with